In poker, every player that is to the left of an opponent has a positional advantage. That means that player gets to act after the player to the right. For this reason, the money flows clockwise round and round the table. If you could put a weather satellite up in space, look down on a poker table, you'd see the money flowing round and round in a clockwise direction because each player to the left of another player has that positional advantage. Position is so important in poker. Position is very important in poker because the action goes clockwise around the table, and you usually get to act after players to your right. You get to see what they do before making your decision, and that's a big advantage. Positional advantage is so important that most of the profit you'll earn in your lifetime will come from your right, and opponents sitting after you have a positional advantage. So sadly, most of the money you'll lose in your lifetime will vanish to your left. The trick is to earn more money from players on your right than you lose to players on your left. There's no such thing as a lucky seat, except after the fact. Looking back, you might observe that a seat has been lucky, that good fortune and good cards were associated with that seat. But there's no scientific way to predict which seats will be lucky and which will be unlucky beforehand. But there's something you can do scientifically. You can choose a winning seat, and it all has to do with the power of position. We've told you that position is really important and that you have an advantage over players to your right who act first. We've also told you that you're at a disadvantage against players to your left. But why leave it at that? Try to choose a seat so that players to your right provide the most profit and players to your left do the least damage. Weak callers go on your right. They play hands that are unprofitable, and you can trap them if they enter the pot first. If you let them sit to your left, that's bad, because you'll often raise before they act, shutting them and the profit they supply out of the pot. Another type of player you'd prefer on your right are aggressive players who know what they're doing. Then you'll be able to see what they do before you commit to the pot. If you let them sit to your left, they'll maximize their positional advantage over you. Doyle says that in the biggest regular game he plays, where millions of dollars change hands in a single session, seat hopping is frowned on or forbidden. But that's one game and not a very good rule in my opinion. You're very unlikely to encounter such a restriction in your games. Players change seats all the time, especially when they feel unlucky. So you should take the opportunity to do that too, but for logical reasons. Also, you can often select the best seat when you're entering a game, or you can choose a game where you'll be in a favorable position to begin with. You'll have to weigh the factors in finding the best seat. Sometimes there is no ideal seat, but you need to keep the factors we're discussing in mind. Choosing the right seat is so important that if you haven't considered it before and are breaking even, you can figure to be a winner just by practicing these guidelines. So who can you safely allow to sit to your left? Simple. There are two types of players who ideally belong on your left. Rocks belong on your left. A rock is a poker term for a player who is ultra selective about the pots he enters. These players can go on your left because they play so few hands that they don't do much damage. Also, You can allow sensible but unaggressive players to sit to your left because they won't make your life miserable. They'll waste the opportunity to press their hands for maximum value, thus voluntarily reducing their positional advantage. They also do little damage. Professional poker players know that your biggest profit positions are late, on the button, or a seat or two earlier. In these seats, you should often raise to take control and maximize your position, providing your hand is strong enough to compete. You don't even need a strong advantage to raise. You just need to believe that your hand is competitive. Often, it's even more profitable to raise a seat or two before the button because then you'll chase away players with superior position. Doyle calls this stealing the button. If you're successful, you'll get to act last on all future rounds of betting.